Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the end of the term. Pretty much. The term doesn't technically end until the end of next week and the beginning of exam week, and I will be taking any term work that comes in until then. So for those of you who are behind on assignments, you have until the end of next week to get them in, and I'll mark them, but after that, time has come to a conclusion. Next week, though, instead of any lessons, there's just going to be one project. So no exam for this course, which I announced earlier on. Instead, you're going to have a culminating activity for the course, and it's going to run all next week. So what I want to do is I want to explain what the activity is for you and kind of like give you some examples of, like to walk you through it a little bit, because I would like to to have you in my class and be able to explain things in person and also to answer any questions that you have along the way. But I'm not able to do that. So I want to try my best to explain it as clearly as possible. And I'll be paying extra attention to my email next week. By the way, if you want to get in touch with me by email, and some of you have figured this out, just one more reminder. It's my work email is the best way because that's what comes in on my phone. The D2L email, I check D2L every day, obviously, when I'm online, and I try to check it several times per day. But in the evenings, for example, I probably won't check it. So you're going to want to email me at mclaughlin@rcdsb.on.ca, and you can find that information on Meet the Teacher, and I will post it also with this video. Hopefully I remember to do that. So your culminating activity is a 5-part assignment over the course of 5 days, and here is what you're going to have to do. And none of this is going to be new. I'm going to be examining skills that you've been using all year and you should be really good at now. So what have you been learning this year? Number one, we did a fair amount of work on creating surveys and using surveys to get information and then interpreting the results of that information. So you're going to be doing a survey, obviously the labs. We've done more labs than anything else, so there's going to be a lab part of it too. You did a lot of research at the beginning of the course, and we're going to get back to that. You're going to be doing some research. And the future wheel, we've done mind mapping and future wheels came up once. I'm going to get you to do another future wheel. So for those of you who did the future wheel and got the feedback on it, that make sure that you have a look at that. If I left you any hints on how to do those better. And finally, you're going to be doing an opinion piece to tie everything together. So what I want to do is I want to give you an example that you can follow. And here's one. So I'm going to give you a series of research questions, and you're going to have, not a series, but like a choice. So you'll have a choice of several questions. Choose the one that interests you the best, and then you're going to use that as the basis of whatever of the task that you're going to do for the culminating activity. So here's one research question. How do Canadians feel about marriages involving women who are older than men? So the norm in Canadian society is that either a couple should be of like comparable age, or if there is an age difference, the male should be older than the female. That's a social norm that's been with us since the very beginning of Canada. It goes back into colonial England and even back before then, kind of, I think probably to the beginning of civilization. And I can't verify that, but that's my guess. But why? That's a question. Like, why does it have to be the case that the man has to be older than the woman? Especially when you take into account the fact that women tend to live older than men. Wouldn't it make sense that the woman should be a bit older than the man because she's expected to live longer? But that's not what our social norms suggest is normal. So that's my question, is how do Canadians feel about relationships, marriages, when the female is noticeably older than the male? So the first thing I'm going to have to do in order to answer this question is I'm going to do some survey work. So I will create surveys, and I'll make sure that I take steps to ensure that the information I gather with them is reliable and that it's valid. So remember, You can never get the bias completely out of social science, but you can limit it. You can get it down to like the minimum. So I'm going to be thinking really carefully about how I craft my questions to make sure that there's no bias in them. So for example, if you yourself were biased and you thought that it doesn't make any sense, this social norm doesn't make any sense, and people should be free to marry whoever they want to regardless of their age. If you were to craft a question that says, don't you agree that it's ridiculous that we say that an older woman can't marry a younger male? Using that kind of word choice obviously, creates bias. So you want to choose your words carefully. And I mean, you've done this already, and you know that you have to try to limit the bias. And then you want to make sure that the questions that you're using do actually give you the information you want. So make sure that you craft them in a way that you're going to get information that's going to help you to answer the question. So a question like, who is the oldest female who's in a relationship? That question doesn't give you any information at all that's relevant to your topic, right? So you want to make sure that your questions are going to give you valid information. And of course, the method to get reliable information is doing the survey twice, or surveying the same test group twice on consecutive days in order to verify that they were taking the survey seriously and that they gave you honest answers. So remember, and we've done all this, so have a look at any feedback I've given you on any survey work that you've done to see, what did I say about your crafting of questions? How could you improve that? And was there anything else that is there that would help you to do better on this? So you'll create 2 surveys. You will find test subjects to give those surveys out, and you will collect the results. You will do a lab, and you're going to have to come up with a lab. So I'll give you an example of how I did this, because this was actually my big project from when I was in sociology in grade 13, back in the day when there were 13 years of school, 5 years of high school. What I did was I created, I cut them out of a Sears magazine or a Sears catalog. I cut out pictures of people, and then I put them on cards, and I asked my test subjects to match them up into appropriate couples. And so the first set would be 3 couples. It'd be a young couple, there'd be a middle-aged couple and an older couple. And obviously, people would match them up the way that they figured would be matched. But then in the next phases of the experiment, I started messing with people. So for example, I got rid of the older male, and I replaced him with a younger male. So there are 2 younger males and a middle-aged male, to see how people would match them up. And what I noticed, I remember, was that they automatically took the oldest male, even the middle-aged male, and they put him with the oldest female because that's what made sense. And I noticed that a lot of people had a lot of trouble with it, or that they asked me, are you sure that these are the right cards? And those are all observations that you'd be able to take. And you would write that down, that people struggled to put these couples together because they violated social norms. Or you might even play around with, I thought about this later on, that I should have played around with race and had cards of people who were white and people who were black, and of different ages, and messed with that to see so which do people value more? For example, if you had the choice between putting a couple together and have them of the same race versus mixed race versus age, would people put an older black female with an older white male versus putting a white male and a white female together, that sort of thing? And mostly it's the reaction of the people doing the lab that I would be looking for. I'd be looking for making observations on how much did people struggle with this idea that it's okay to put an older female together with a younger male, that sort of thing. you'll be doing some research on it. So I would just do a little research on, what have other people found about Canadians and their opinion on, how old people can be when they, or like the age differences in relationships. How do Canadians feel about that? Or if I can't find Canadians, how do Americans feel about that? Or British, or, Chinese, whatever. I'll do a little bit of research into it. And I'll make sure that I use good, valid sources. So what I'd be looking for the research part is I'm going to get you to find 2 sources of information. I'm going to get you to pull details out of that and to make sure that you cite sources correctly. So that won't be a writing assignment, that will be a researching. You'll just be finding sources, pulling relevant details out, and then citing those. And then finally, how do you feel about it? You'll be creating a future wheel to sort of express how you yourself feel about the whole idea. So what would happen if an older female married a younger male? So, the pros and cons coming out from that, and pros and cons coming out from that even further, and so on. Or you might do the future wheel, like changing the social norm to make it acceptable for older females to be marrying younger males. And then what would the result of that be? Cause and effect branching out, and then eventually deciding, well, what do I think based on my reasoning? And then so you're going to take your results from your survey, from your lab, from your research, and from your future wheel, and then you're going to put that together in the form of an opinion piece, like a 1-page opinion. And you've done opinion work in this course. You know that I'm looking for you to take a strong opinion, one side or the other, not in the middle, and to back it up with evidence. So that is what your project is going to be. You're going to craft surveys. You're going to design a lab and do that lab. You're going to do a little bit of research. You're going to do a future wheel. And the purpose of those 4 activities is to give you information to help form an opinion, and then you're going to tell me what your opinion is. 5 activities, 5 days to do them in, and you don't have to do them in any particular order, and you also don't have to do them 1 per day. You can do more than 1 per day in order to get ahead on the assignment. All right. So like I said, I will be doing my best to be online as much as possible. I'll have a nice, clear assignment sheet for you as soon as possible. I plan to release it this weekend for anybody who wants to get a jump on it. And so you'll be having all next week, and then we'll even give you the weekend after that. Because e-learning exams are technically due Monday, it'll be by the end of the Monday of exam week. So I guess that is January the 30th. January the 30th, by the end of the day, will be when the culminating activity is due. All right. So as always, make sure you get in touch with me if you have any questions, especially for the culminating activity, for anything, for any of the term work. If you need any help with that to get caught up, just ask and I will help you as much as I can.